to talk more about economics. I'm going to, at this stage, bring on stage somebody who's one of the most respected economists in India. He has represented India at the International Monetary Fund. He has been the chief economic advisor to the government of India. And he has one of the most illustrious careers as an economist. Before I get him on stage, take a look at this.
Trade wars redraw supply chains. Tariffs tilt markets. Agreements stall as economies compete for advantage. For India, Europe is not just a market, it's a growth corridor. The FTA on the table could unlock new supply chains, energize exports, and reshape the rules of global commerce. Guiding this conversation is one of India's most respected economists, member of NITI Aayog and former chief economic advisor to the government of India. A voice that has shaped fiscal policy and understands the fault lines of global trade. Please welcome member of NITI Aayog.
Let me please invite on stage Dr. Arvind Virmani. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for Dr. Arvind Virmani.
My fellow ministers, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm briefly, in one line, going to tell you what NITI means. Actually, very few people know about it, even in India. The NITI, NITI, stands for National Institution for Transforming India. We are implicitly the think tank of the Honorable Prime Minister, because he is our chairman. We have a vice chairman and 5 members, among which I am the member. With that said, I'm going to talk, I'm used to giving very long speeches, having an academic background, but I've been told 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll have a question answer on a certain thing. So I've picked something which may be a little different and a little more interesting. I'm going to talk about 2 trends which are shaping the global economy and the interrelationship between them. Of course, they relate to what India and Germany should do. So one trend is country concentration of manufacturing has risen over the last 25 years, resulting in a near monopoly of manufactured goods, including rare earth metals, with attendant economic, geopolitical, and national security risks. So I'm going to show you a few graphs to show what's been happening. Global demographic changes during last 25 years, coupled with those projected over the next 25 years, will reorder the global comparative advantage in ways that aren't fully appreciated by developed countries, including, I'm afraid, Europe and Germany. Though we talk a lot about demographics, I don't think there is a true appreciation. So I will show you a graph which hopefully will stick in your mind. And finally, these changes provide a huge opportunity for EU and India to combine their relative comparative advantage and shared democratic values to jointly build supply chains. That's the key message I want to leave to you. The FTA is merely a process for doing it, in my way of looking. I hope I can bring that out for you. And these can reduce all types of risks. You're all aware of the kind of risks which are there. I'm not going to talk about individual countries creating these risks, but you all know about it. And Germany, as the center of advanced manufacturing in Europe, can play a pivotal role. So you can put the first figure. China's share has risen since 2000 rapidly. So on the left, I have a graph which shows you the world MVA, the world manufacturing value added. On the right is the shares of world exports. And you can clearly see the blue line, which is China, and the rapid rise in China's share, which is now close to 30%. Some projections show that it could be half of the world manufacturing if nothing is done about it. So a huge concentration. We have calculated concentration indexes which have risen tremendously from around 2005 to now. Similarly, for exports, you can see the rise of China's exports. Manufacturing value added is now 1.6 times that of USA and 5 times that of Germany. Remember, at some point, Germany was way ahead. So was the US. Look at the left. The pink line is Germany, and the orange is USA. So the Herfindahl index is just a way we calculate concentration, has risen from about 0.08 to 0.127. It's a huge increase in concentration of world manufacturing. And similarly for exports, which has risen from about 0.05 in 2005 to 0.07 in 21. This rise in share is seen in a broad range of products, whether we look at 2-digit, 4-digit, 6-digit, and the supply chains. The concentration in simple supply chains, complex supply chains is huge. And this also creates regional and geographical risks, besides the country risk, which is obvious. Next. Next graph. Yeah. So that is the first point. The second point is relates to demographics. So you will look at these graphs. On the left there, we have the working age population, which is taken from UN statistics. On the right, oh, you can't even see them. Missing. It's a black background. Okay, you can't change it. But you can see that the world share of working age population of China, EU, Japan, all the countries except India's is going to fall over the next 30 years. Actually, this graph was more interesting, but you can't even see it. Okay. There's no way to change it? Okay. So the numbers are there. You can see the minus 8.4 for China. Then you can see -2, etc. There should be a bar there. Everybody else is negative. Only India is positive. Okay. So that's the huge change in global demographics and working labor force, okay, which is underway now. It's been happening, but it's going to accelerate. Next graph. They're all inappropriate. Okay, we got some nice colors there. So, so this is the comparative advantage. Okay, so usually people think of low-skilled, low-educated labor. So what I'm showing here is projections of the school-educated and the college-educated share of the workforce. Okay, and again you can see EU is negative, Japan is negative, Russia, South Korea, USA is slightly positive, UK is marginally positive, and the middle-income countries who are kind of, you could think of as our competitors, China, and look at India. A huge increase in the workforce which has school education, this is the change, and which has college education. So these are the big demographic changes which are going to happen in the next 25 years. So what are the implications? Diversification of EU, European firm supply chains from China. Because of the concentration, we don't have any option. Unless you want to be held hostage for the next 25 years, we have to diversify our supply chains. And only India is the potential partner to build deep and wide alternative supply chains. These will not only be competitive, but reliable suppliers of dual use and strategic goods and services. A lot of talk these days about German, Indian, and other cooperation in defense manufacturing, repairs, maintenance. Absolutely. Very, very important factor is going to be in the next 25 years. And of course, these can be accelerated by the FTA. But I think the imperatives are very, very clear. They arise from the concentration of manufacturing in one country and the fact that the demographics tell you the only alternative. Finally, to summarize, global demographic changes provide an opportunity to combine Europe's comparative advantage in technology and India's comparative advantage in human resources for mutual gain. This is something I've been convinced about for a long, long time. And I'm very happy that I think now this is universally accepted in India. It was not so some years ago when I was not in government. These can be used in the next decade and a half to jointly build competitive supply chains. Re-emphasize this, which reduce global concentration of manufacturing and reduce the risk of economic, geopolitical, and national security disruptions. Each one of these is very important, given the huge uncertainty. As I said, I don't want to talk about where the uncertainty is coming, but everybody knows it. Germany, as the center of manufacturing supply chains in EU, will provide a pivotal role. Of course, FTA is focused on facilitating manufacturing supply chains, is very, very important for this purpose, this particular. That doesn't mean the others are not important for services, for AI, etc., because I've not had time to talk about those, which I can if there are questions. But followed by a SEPA, which covers services, investment, other things. It will facilitate, again, the process. Joint measures, and so on. So let me end with a little story. I've been visiting, in the last couple of months, I've visited like 20 units across the country. Some of these were German companies, some were JVs. And please don't take this as a criticism, but I have found there is still a hesitancy to think of India in expanding these supply chains, where I could see that we are completely competitive. Okay, so companies, just to make it concrete, who have suppliers, let's say, over 20 countries, but certain elements which the Indian companies are supplying and which they could double and triple and quadruple in supply competitively, that step is not being taken because there are some other manufacturing units somewhere else doing it. But the competitive location now is India. And let me tell you, I have seen some amazing small, of course, we are all very knowledgeable or know your Mittelstand, excellent technology. But there are now small companies arising. One of them I went to quite recently, 2 weeks ago, where they are 100% export-oriented unit. But that's not the key thing. That gentleman has made the entire machinery and the tooling for that factory by himself. Okay? He's created that system. So they're very innovative companies there. With that, let me end. And I think somebody is going to, there, my friend there is going to moderate.
Dr. Virmani, thank you so much, and excellent data presented by you. If I may just begin by asking you, sir, why the numbers, the second and the third slide that you showed, were absolutely positive in favor of India. We are talking about education levels, and we are talking about labor force participation. How long, sir, before the first graph also starts accelerating in favor of India?
Well, that is one of the challenges. That's why I mentioned the think tank. That is the kind of job I have, which is why, as I said, I've been visiting. But let me tell you, again, something you have been talking about since yesterday, I've heard you. But one of our main areas where we are somewhat weak is in job skilling. And again, Germany can play a huge role. You know, and every time I discuss skilling, which again is part of my mandate in a way. And I've visited like 15 different skilling centers, but there's a huge gap. And again, I think we can learn a lot from Germany. Maybe I would invite, now things are very open, all kinds of skilling issues, apprenticeship. We've modified the Apprenticeship Act. We've done a whole bunch of reforms, but we don't still have that ecosystem, you could call it, which can do this transfer from the education to the skill, the job skilling. I think that's an important gap which we are trying to fill.
All right, absolutely. I think skilling is definitely on the government's agenda as well, sir. I want to also ask you at this point that the India-Germany partnership and the India-EU FTA, a lot of that, again, something you mentioned in your speech, also happens to do with decoupling from China. Now, how do we convince our partners here in Germany and in rest of Europe that there are shining examples in India as well, and there are enough and more case studies that tell us that China plus one is indeed possible?
See, I hesitate to frame it as decoupling. I think what we really need, given the challenge of concentration,
Diversification?
is diversification and competitive supply chains. So the way I frame it is we can build competitive supply chains. Again, I have seen many areas where our costing is by ourselves, our own companies, is 20 to 30% off from China. But I feel that if we can build the scale, again in cooperation with German and EU companies, we can close that 20% gap. So the idea is not just to shift companies for political or geopolitical reasons, but also for economic reasons. The opportunity is there, competition will benefit everybody. And so that is how I would look at it and try to convince people. It is possible. It's very possible. You may say we can buy something for 30% right now cheaper than India. But if we make the joint effort, I think within 5 years or less, we can be equally competitive.
Right, so one aspect is, of course, the Make in India aspect, where German companies, European companies would want to make capital investments to start manufacturing in India. But at the same time, we also have a large consumer base. So whether or not you make in India, selling in India to the large consumer base has got to be profitable for European companies. And just to give an example, sir, you were giving numbers. From what I read, Mercedes-Benz, a Stuttgart-based company, a luxury car maker, a German enterprise, sold one car every 6 minutes during the Navratri festive season. One car every 6 minutes is a record, sir. So talk to us about the consumer base, the vibrant consumer base that India has to offer.
Right. Okay, I guess Mr. Thakur and others will also talk a little bit about that, the demand side. But let me just give you a few examples. There are still too many people in India who think of poverty. Well, poverty, as we talked about it in the World Bank, I worked in the World Bank like 50 or 30 years ago.
And the definitions are, you never come to consensus with the definition.
No, they are international definitions. The problem is every time we meet a milestone, they change the definition.
Exactly.
So that's a different thing. But the World Bank definition of absolute poverty, there are no poor left in India. Even according to a kind of more rigorous, you could say, for a middle income country definition, now it's down to less than 15%, what you might think of as a vulnerable population. So the middle class is definitely, according to all the projections we have, expanding. But I also, I talked to the Japanese, for example. Some of them give up. You got to compete. I mean, if you think you can go into India and you'll be easily get all the market, it's not so. But of course, for German companies like Mercedes and all, it should not be a problem. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sir, if I can just also play devil's advocate, since we are in Germany, I think when we speak to some of the Mittelstand companies here, and when we speak to some of the government representatives also, who are, or the chambers of commerce, I think one slight irritant that they sometimes have is the red tape in the country. Do you think that is true? And do you think, as a member of NITI Aayog, we are doing enough to address ease of doing business in India?
That's a very good question. Basically, I've spent my whole life trying to remove red tape for private business. I mean, I'm a market economist. 50 years ago, I was probably one of a handful, and now there are many more. But let me tell you concrete. In the budget, there were 2 or 3 deregulatory steps, and I'll give you 2 examples. I have struggled for at least a decade or more to get income tax reform. In this budget, it was passed and approved within a month.
That's right,
So
sir.
the income tax system has been simplified. Secondly, GST, which again, I have made tons of presentation to various people. I don't need to name them. And it was done within, I think, a month, if I remember.
That's right,
So
sir.
lots of things happening. But besides that, all the other things people complain about, they are on our agenda. I can tell you there are 2 cabinet-level ministerial committees which have been appointed in the last month to look at a whole range of issues. There are 2 committees in NITI Aayog at a different level. Obviously, the cabinet level has to look at big things and so on. Members are ministers of state equivalent. And so on, and at the sector. So lot of action is happening. People say you just talk about it. No, these are solid committees. They are not for the sake of just showing people that we have a committee. So we are aware there are still a lot of problems. I call it, as I said, I've been at this for more than 30 years. I call it a jungle of controls. which we are hacking away at. But unfortunately, it's a
It's
jungle.
a jungle. It's
We
going to
are
take a
cutting
while.
through it, and it may take a bit of time to remove all the problems.
Right. My final question to you, sir. We are in a football stadium. Football is all about competition. May the best team win. And there are two teams here on this stage today, India and Germany. Sir, as per your assessment, your calculation as an economist, how long before India beats Germany as the third largest economy in the world?
Well, according to my calculation, I also do a lot of data projections. At the end of this year, our economy will be larger than Japan's in the normal US dollar terms. And within 2 years, my estimate suggests by 28, the Indian economy in dollar terms will be larger than Germany's.
2028, ladies and gentlemen, that's the final word coming in from Dr. Arvind Virmani. Dr. Virmani, pleasure having you here with us on the News9 Global Summit. If you could please stay on
Dr.
stage,
Virmani,
sir.
Dr. Virmani, please stay with us on the stage. We have presentations from both sides, from the TV9 network and from FOF Stuttgart, requesting Mr. Varun Das, if he's around, to please come on stage, sir, for the shawl presentation. And of course, Reuven, with the scarf from FOF Stuttgart.